ॐ श्रुति स्मृति पुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत् व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै नमः। Yeah, Anjali, would you like to chant today?
Okay.
All right. Good. So we're going to chant from verse number 51. Karmajam
Karmajam
buddhi yukta hi
buddhi yukta hi
phalam tyaktva
phalam tattva
manishinaha
manishinaha
janma
bandha
vinirmuktaha
virirmuktaha
padam gachanti
padam gachanti
anamayam
anamayam
yadate
yadate
moha kalilam
mohakalilam
buddhihi
buddhihi
vyatitarishyati
vrititarishtati
tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha shruti vipratipannaha te. So that's a mistake actually. Shruti vipratipanna te yada sthasati nischala
Nischala.
Samadhavachala buddhihi.
Samavachala buddhihi.
Samadhavachala
Samadhavachala
buddhihi.
buddhihi.
Tada yogam
Tada yogam
avapsyasi.
avapsyasi.
Arjuna uvacha.
Arjuna uvacha.
Sthita prajnasya
Krita pragnasya
ka bhasha.
ka bhasha.
Samadhisthasya
Samadhistasya
keshava
keshava
sthitadhihi
stitadihi
kim prabhasheta
kim prabhasheta
kimasita
kimasita
vrajeta kim.
vrajeta kim.
Śrībhagavān uvacha
Śrībhagavān uvacha
prajahati yada kaman.
prajahati yada kaman.
Prajahati
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 yada kaman.
yada kaman.
Sarvan partha
Sarvan partha
manogatan
manogatan
atmanyeva
atmanyeva
atmana tushtaha
atmana tushtaha
sthita prajnaha
krita prajnaha
tadochyate.
tadoshyate.
Yeah.
Sorry about my mispronunciation, everybody.
No, everybody's learning, so it's good. You're doing a lot better than you used to do, Anjali. Very happy. Yeah, really.
Thank
I mean
you.
that.
I know you would.
So we have come to the point where Krishna as though stopped his teaching and implying that by now I've told everything. It's possible that you could have understood everything, but now Arjuna is asking a question. So that was in 54, and the way Adi Shankaracharya interpreted that is about this wise person. Arjuna is asking sthita prajnaha samadhistaha sthitadihi. He used 3 words, and he is asking, how does that person talk? How does that person walk? And how does that person sit, etc.? Because we don't know, we are engaging with people who are like us. We always, the company we keep is always people who are like us in thinking, and perhaps our own background. And so in America, Indians will meet Indians because there is some beauty in that. We can relate to people who know and talk about things that we also know. That's how it is. So we don't get up in the morning and say, today I want to go meet some sannyasis. Nobody says that. And I don't know why, but we don't say that. So here, therefore, it's, even though Arjuna is exposed to his culture, he knows Brahma, he knows Atma, he knows all these things, but knows superficially, like everybody else. So now he wants to know, tell me more about the wise person. So we saw we saw that in the last class. And so prajahati yada kama, when a person gives up all desires as they arise in one's mind, in the person's mind. And so there we left that idea and we said, how can a person give up desires? Desires is what makes us move. And so this idea of giving up desires needs a lot more explanation. Simply can't give up desires like that. In fact, we are the only species that can have desires. No animal can have desires like the human being. Animals can have basic desires to eat, to they're hungry, they eat, procreation, and then protecting themselves from danger. These are the only three things they can desire for. They can't even desire for, even among the foods, what desire can a cow have? You know, so it will eat some grass, some leaves if it is offered, but otherwise it doesn't even have the ability to explore beyond the basic instinctual programmed desires. So here this human being is told to give up desires, and so the question was raised. Shankara himself raises that question in his commentary. Look at that, why it is important for us to read the commentaries. And he's asking the question, hey, if the person gives up desires, assuming it is possible, then the person is going to become crazy. Because on the one hand, there are desires, and on the other hand, Bhagavan Sri Krishna is saying, give up. And so now there is no way to fulfill my desires. This can only drive a person crazy. That argument, like we call it Purva Paksha. Purva Paksha means the opponent, the person who is presenting an opposite point of view. That person is called a Purva Pakshi. So the Purva Pakshi's argument is what we heard. And so then Shankara immediately says, that is why Atmani eva Atmana Tushtaha. That person is not somebody who is going to be restless. Person is not somebody who's going to panic because Krishna told this. No, only a person who sees the whole as oneself. Such a person, Atmani eva Atmana Tushtaha. No, that person is indeed happy, and he's not going to be a sad person, not going to be a dejected person. No, only that person is being referred to here. Because this is how Shankara gives his commentary. So that's how he connects the first half with the second half of the line of the shloka. Okay, so we gave the example of the sugar crystal who wants to be sweet, and the sugar crystal is told, your nature is sweetness. You can't be sweeter than what you are. This happiness that you're seeking really is part of you. Really is not even part of you. It is you. It is your true nature. This the human being is being told. And so when we left off, we said we need to talk a little bit about this desires. Sarvan Kaman. Sarvan Kaman. In Sanskrit, Sarvaha Kamaha. All types of desires, all forms of desires. So, Kamaha. Kamaha is a word Bhagavan Sri Krishna uses. And Kama is nothing but Raga and Dvesha. So we often use the word Raga Dvesha, Raga Dvesha. So it's a pair of words, Raga and Dvesha. And Raga means a desire for something, and a desire to once accomplish, a desire to protect what is acquired. Desire to acquire and desire to protect what is acquired. That's called Raga. Okay. Apraptasya prapanam, praptasya rakshanam. That is the definition of a raga. Not classical music raga, but here like, commonly called a like. So I like something, and it may be just a like, then the like may turn into possession. I want to possess it. I want to possess what I like. Wouldn't it be nice to have one at home? This idea comes. If one is well off, these ideas come. And then once you buy that thing, then you have to protect it. This protection, our life completely goes off in keeping and maintaining our things that we have. And so that is called raga. Dvesha is what? Avoiding what you don't want to have. Avoiding what you don't want to have. and or getting rid of what what you got, something you don't want and you want to get rid of it. That's called dvesha. So you don't want so many things. You don't want all kinds of animals entering your house, dogs, stray cats, all these things are there. I have to say stray dog because we do have dogs at home. I don't have one, but people do have pets. And so those animals who are not your pets, of which there are many, 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 you don't want them in your home. So you keep them away. You keep all the bugs away. And sometimes bugs come home. And I don't want gray hair. This problem is only for the person who has hair on their head. But the one who does not have hair on their head, no problem. Gray hair, black hair, this hair, brown hair, and all, it doesn't matter. You guys discuss that. I'm not interested in that discussion, you know. So keeping, if you have hair, keeping the grayness away is a problem. A lot of money is spent on that. All that is called dvesha. Dvesha. Raga, dvesha. Acquiring, rejecting, avoiding, keeping things away. This is how our entire life, if you analyze, it comes under raga and dvesha. Correct? So that is kama. Kama means that. Raga, dvesha. So giving up desires, if you carefully look at it, unless one is happy, one cannot give up desires. And unless you satisfy your desires, you can't be happy. Correct? That's how it is. And hey, wait a minute, I need to fulfill my desires. Only then I can be happy. But at the same time, unless the person is happy, person cannot sacrifice desires, cannot let go. So it's a catch-22 situation here. Catch-22. So here Swamiji gives an example. The boy is mentally not okay, not balanced, you know, bit crazy. And then the person, the advice they give is, if he gets married, he will become all right. Okay, this is the advice. In our villages and all, we've heard this. Kalyanam manda sariyayidum alla. So as though this fellow knows everything about psychology, you know, people give all kinds of advice. You know, very easy to give advice. It'll get okay. India is very common. It'll get okay. I don't know how it will get okay. So this is the advice given to this guy who is a bit crazy. First of all, no father is going to give their daughter in marriage to a crazy person. Okay, this is a given fact, and he is confident that his son is going to get married. Who's going to marry your son? So catch-22. You have to marry in order to get better, but then you have to be better in order to get married. This is the problem. Catch-22. So a lot of situations we have are catch-22 situations. So here also seems to be a similar situation. So it may look that way. Swamiji cautions us here. It may look that way, but that is not how it should be understood. Okay. So this is a technique in teaching Vedanta. You present a situation that everybody understands, and then you say, that is not how it is. Oh, really? I understood. You explained very well. I understood everything, but that is not how it is. You know, that's how called. It's a technique that in Vedanta. So Anvaya Vyatireka, it's called Anvaya Vyatireka technique. But anyway, don't worry about the Sanskrit words. So here, this binding and non-binding desires is to be brought into the picture. Desires are binding if I must accomplish my desire. If I must fulfill a desire, then that's called a binding desire. If the fulfillment of a desire is a must for me in order for me to be comfortable with myself, that's called a binding desire. Any other desire is called a non-binding desire. So my children's health, I want my children to be happy. They must be healthy. And that's often a binding desire, because if they are not healthy, then I'm not good. I'm not happy. I can't really see myself happy when my children are suffering. Not possible. So binding desires on the one hand, and then you've got non-binding desires. Everything else, I want to go for a walk. If I can't go for a walk, it's all right. If I go for a walk, it's all right. So there are many desires like this, which are, I want to write, I want to read this book, read that, etc. So many desires in a given day are non-binding desires. Means the desires can come, they can go, they can stay, and you may have some intention to follow through on the desires. But if you don't follow through, or if they don't work out, you're still okay. It's called a non-binding desire. So here in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna doesn't talk about non-binding desires, because by definition those desires are not binding. They can come and go, and it's a blessing to have a desire for something, and if you don't fulfill it, so be it. Krishna is not talking about that. Swamiji says Krishna talks about binding desires, because that's the desire that bites me, that gets me, that traps me. And so prajahati yada, when that person gives up all these binding desires also. So here Swamiji mentions, Shankara wrote a commentary on Bhagavad Gita. He had a desire to write it. That's why he wrote it. And he wanted others to study that Bhashyam. That is why he wrote it, and so many copies are there. And he taught it to his students in those times. And he wanted others to learn. That is why he went on debates. He traveled by foot or any other means, and to so many places. He established ashrams, mathas. Why? He had a desire that this teaching be available. And it won't be available unless there is a matha, unless there is an ashram, unless there is an institution that teaches. And so look at how many desires he has. These are not ordinary desires also. Setting up an ashram. How many of us are going to set up an ashram? Not many. So these are all very unique and big desires. And teaching this subject, and then creating more and more sannyasis. How many things he has done in a short span of life. So where does this shloka, Sarvan Kaman Prajahati, where does it leave Shankara? This is how Swamiji asked that question. There are so many desires he fulfilled, and he is commenting on Krishna's statement, give up desires. Now let's analyze Krishna. Krishna had all kinds of desires, and he loved music. So he held on to, he chose the flute. There's so many musical instruments, that too in India, there are so many available. He could be, in fact, he is good with drums, I think. These kinds of people who are always smiling, just, you should play some drums, I think. What flute? Flute is not appropriate for Krishna, but Krishna chose flute. And not only that, he picked up the flute, he blew the flute, desired to have some music come out of it, and then he had the desire to stop singing. So many things are there. Every action is based on a desire, presupposes a desire. So Krishna had so many desires who he fulfilled. So which means if Krishna himself is saying, Yada sarvan kaman prajahati, when somebody gives up desires, that person is a sthita prajna. That means Krishna must not be a sthita prajna. Shankara must not be a sthita prajna. Vyasa cannot be a sthita prajna. Vyasa wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote, and he wrote all the 18 Puranas. He wrote Brahma Sutra. He wrote the Mahabharata, the longest poem the human being has ever known. How much he has written. Surely he must have written with the intention of what he's writing to be studied by others. Nobody writes just for the sake of writing. Very rarely. Even the one-liner WhatsApp message we send, we expect the person who receives it to read it. That's why you constantly look at the tick mark. Is the tick mark doubling or not? Tripling, doubling, they have all these things. And then blue color, red color. Yeah, you look at it. Why? Because you want, there is a purpose behind sending all these messages. Even if it is one thumb. This thumb. Interesting things, We could not do all this in email. These days in WhatsApp, you do all these things. No words are spoken. So you just say thumbs up. So clearly, desires is there constantly. We don't express them, but we constantly fulfill those desires. So with so much, and Arjuna wanting Krishna to drive the chariot, and Krishna saying, okay, I will do that for you. So that's a desire. Without a desire to do it, you won't do it. He did not say no. So there is so much. Desire is always there. This is why Swamiji makes a point here to mention that there are so many commentaries which talk about giving up desires. And ichha ko chhod do. Give up desires. One cannot really give up desires. And so all these commentaries do a disservice by saying give up desires. Desires cannot be given up. Therefore, then we have to ask the question, what does Krishna mean by this? We have to bring in what is called doership, kartritvam. Doership. I am a doer. Every human being is an agent of action. Doership means what? Agent. Agency of action is there. So we are born to do. That doership is there in all of us, and in Sanskrit it's called kartritvam, and the doer is called a karta. So whenever the karta is there, there is going to, then desires make sense, because a desire is there, and if the power to fulfill it is not given, as I said last time, then that desire is useless, that shakti is useless unless it can be fulfilled. And so that ability to fulfill is given for a person, and the person needs that kartritvam, doership, ability to do. I can, I do, I will. These are all go hand in hand with ahankara, hand in hand with choice. Animal does not have doership. Only human beings have doership. So that doership is important. When the person sees that I am Atma, I am not the body. Body is I, but I am not the body. The wave is water, but the water is not wave. That fact must be seen clearly by the wave. And so when I see, the human being sees that I am not the body, but the body may be I, but I am not the body. When that fact is seen and Atma is understood as in the way that Krishna has explained it, then the doership is not there. When doership is not there, then nothing needs to be done in order to be better. There is no becoming better, because Atma is Purnaha, and that Purna Atma is not a doer. And so doing for the sake of becoming better, for the sake of becoming happy, does not exist for that person. Okay, so all these things go hand in hand. Purnatvam, the fullness of Atma, and this kartritvam, doership. And so that has to be brought in. The non-doer. The non-doer is the only one who can give up desires, as it were, cognitively given up. For the maintenance of the body, some certain activities will be going on, basic activities, but there is no binding desire for that person. Okay, that's the person Krishna is talking about here. And so let's look at these other words, yada and tada. So yada sarvan kaman prajahati, when the person gives up all desires as they arise in the mind, manogatan. And then there is the word atmani eva atmana tushtaha. There also yada. Yada means when. The force of the when goes there also. And when the person is happy being oneself. Okay, atmani eva atmana tushtaha, by oneself. Then that person is called as sthita prajnaha. So tushtaha, that person, so here is obviously referring to not giving up desires and then sitting frustrated. No, not that person. Tushtaha. Tushtaha means happy. And that happiness we have to include security. Person is fully secure. Secure in the knowledge, in the wake of the knowledge of the fullness of Atma. Okay, that we have to bring in here. And so that means giving up of desires is possible only when a person has that vision. Okay, has that vision. And when one is happy with oneself. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. So that self, when it is understood, that self is completely acceptable to that person. That person does not need anything else in this world to say, I am happy. Clearly, this is not experiential happiness. Make a note. Experiential happiness is different. The minute you say experience, then you are bringing in something that happens and something that will go away. Okay. So that fullness, which is a natural expression of Atma. And so, I am the whole. There is no second. There is no second. Can you believe that? Can you believe this vision? Only then one can say I am full. Otherwise, I am full is what? Enough. Thank you. You know, my stomach is full. That's all you can say. That is only fullness possible. And after that, that fullness becomes empty again. I need to fill up my stomach again. This is constant. This fullness doesn't come and go. It is nityam. It is always. It is something that cannot be improved. Neither can it reduce. That kind of fullness is what Krishna is talking about. And like the sugar, that is always sweet. Nobody can take sweetness away from sugar. Neither can the sugar become sweeter than what it is. This is Atma. Atmani eva atmana tushtaha. So having said that, going back to Krishna's question of how does this wise person walk, talk, or sit? These kinds of questions are there. If a type of walk becomes an attribute of a wise person, then many of us can become wise by learning to walk in that manner, by learning to sit in that manner, talk in a particular manner. We can do all that. That's not a big deal. So clearly that cannot be an attribute of wisdom. And so here Swamiji says, only knowledge can make a person wise. Only wisdom can make a person wise. What else can make a person wise? Possessing something else cannot be equated to wisdom. Like somebody who asked Swamiji, how do I become more compassionate? And I have this thoughts of anger, and I know that. I've become to realize that I'm shouting at everybody, my family members. But I don't like that. I want to invoke the love in me. And Swamiji said, good, invoke the love in you. The only way you can be compassionate is by being compassionate. There's no other way. There's no other way. If you want to do some running, jogging too, and then scream it out, go out, scream out all your anger, come back home. Go ahead and do it. Be creative. Try to create situations which invoke that compassion in you. That is the only way to be compassionate. Samaveda says, Danena adanam tara. Danena adanam tara. I want to be compassionate. Compassion means being, it's not easy. You got to be more giving than taking. You need to constantly give. And so Samaveda says, Danena adanam tara. The inability to give. I have so much, but I can't part with any of that. This is called inability to give, adanam. And so how do you, this is a disease, adanam is a disease. And as long as a person cannot part with things, even though that person has the capacity to part with it, it's a disease. Person cannot be happy. Because it basically perpetuates the idea that I am insecure. The more I hoard, it is only an expression of my own insecurity. The more insecure I am, the more I'm going to hoard. Keep on controlling people, controlling things. This becomes my life. Therefore, Samaveda says, Danena adanantara. The only way to overcome this disease is to part with stuff. Danena adanam. There's no other way. So we are invoking that here. So only knowledge can make a person wise. And Bhagavan, Sachidananda, so much our scriptures have written about this, which we are trying to learn, of course. So that Sthita Prajna, the one who discovers Ananda as the real nature of Atma, the one who knows that Ananda cannot be there outside. No object, no person, no thing, no situation has the ability to produce that happiness. Not possible. Because my nature is Ananda, I am able to experience Ananda. That fact is very clear to this person. And so I am the whole. That idea is very clear. And as we will see, that idea of wholeness is connected with the fulfillment of desires. The less I have this vision in mind, the more I appear to go after desires, fulfilling desires. So these two are connected. So that's the purport of the verse of the shloka. Let's go back to the shloka and see and translate this. Okay. So yada tada, when, then. That is how this sentence should be completed. Yada, when. So when what? When sarvan kaman manogatan prajahati. When a person gives up all the desires as they appear in the mind. Appear in the mind, manogatan, sarvan kaman, all desires, and prajahati, gives up. Literal translation, gives up. Kama, atmani eva atmana tushtaha. Happy in oneself, with oneself alone. Alone, that eva, there is eva in between. Atmani eva atmana. 3 words are there in that first segment, which appears like one word. So atmani eva atmana. Atmani in atma, atmana by atma. One who is happy in oneself, with oneself alone, means requiring nothing. Why requiring nothing? Because there is no second thing. because there is no second thing. That we will understand slowly. But that is why Atmani eva Atmana Tushtaha, happy in oneself with oneself alone. O Partha, O Arjuna, Kama, that person is said to be one of firm wisdom, ascertained knowledge. Tada sthita prajnaha uchyate. So that last segment has many words here. I think you must have recognized. Sthita prajnaha tada uchyate. There are three words there. We have split all those three into, all that one into three. Sthita prajnaha tada uchyate. So then that person is called a person of firm wisdom, ascertained knowledge. Knowledge that doesn't come and go. Very interesting, that usage of that steadiness of knowledge. Because initially it is hard to believe. That is why these phrases are used. And in fact, when we study, when we've gone to school and college and so forth, there are exams. What is the purpose of an exam? To check if that which I studied is steady or not. Have I forgotten or not? Yeah. So 6 months ago, whatever you taught, I forgot. That is why they have the semester exams. So make sure you don't forget. And so it looks like education systems are constantly in a quandary. How much syllabus should you include in the final exam? That's a big question, I think. It's not been resolved yet. Every time there's always changing. Semester. In our colleges, we used to have semester system. And semester system, we used to really like it. You know why? Because in school, it was never like that. The entire year's portions we had to study. And from the first page onwards, and it used to be a bit, overwhelming. Study a whole book for an exam or what? And that too, that is just one subject. You got subject 2, subject 3, subject 4, subject 5, the unending. And so we used to go through all that. So to check if that knowledge is, you still remember what I taught 12 months ago. So here of course, it's not a question of remembering. We will see why it's not a question of remembering later. So that is this shloka, a profound answer to Arjuna's question, which requires a good bit of understanding. Okay. So with that said, we can now go to the shloka number 56. Okay, good. Sharada. Dukkeshu anudvignamanaha sukheshu vigataspruhaha. Yeah, there is, you can hear something. Yeah, go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah. Vitaraga bhayakrodhaha sthitadhihi muniruchyate dukkeshvanudvignamanaha sukheshu vigataspruhaha. Vitaraga bhayakrodhaha Sthitadhir muniruchyate.
Titadhir
Good. So a bit of a tongue twister there. Dukheshvanadvignamanaha. So you can see when we study Bhagavad Gita, it also helps in our pronunciation of Sanskrit. And they also say that it helps your brain somehow. And your neurological systems are also somewhat reset. And so I have no reason to dispute that. And I can see some evidence among other people, if not in my own self. So I think there is some truth to that. So all this Veda Parayanam, chanting of Vedas, so suktas and all that, very important to keep doing it periodically. So here, continuation. Krishna is continuing. And he's going to talk about, expand on that idea of giving up desires, etc. Arjuna's question Shankara says was meant to know about the wise person so that Arjuna can emulate the wise person. So you tell me more about how the wise person behaves so that I can also learn to be like that person. So when we used to work, we used to, the minute you start working and all that, you're asked to give presentations. And then suddenly you have to stand in front of a few people and talk. So until now, it was not a problem. In college, okay, once in a while we do it. But suddenly this becomes more common. And then the stage fear. Stage fear is a big problem. And so the person has to grow out of it. How do you grow out of it? There is really only one way to grow out of it. You have to stand in front of an audience and talk it out. There's no other way to grow out of it. And they give you some tips, techniques, all that they give you. Prepare yourself. Okay, prepare well. So be honest. All these things are there. Honesty is important because when somebody asks a question and you don't know, then what? Oh my God, I don't know. Then you try to cover it up and then say something else. No, don't say that. Better say I don't know. And then that's the best way that is the right thing to do also. So therefore, Arjuna looking for values. What kinds of things that I can invoke in myself in this pursuit of knowledge? And so in that context, Krishna is continuing to say this. Dukheshu anudvigna manaha. Dukha. Dukha means sorrow. General meaning is sorrow. And Krishna says dukheshu. So the shu, when it comes in Sanskrit, it means plural. Saptami, plural. In the presence of sorrow. In the presence of sorrows, plural. Okay. How many types of sorrow are there? When somebody is sad, you ask them, what type of sadness do you have? Please tell me what type of sadness you have. Then we can find a solution to that. You feel like, what do you feel? Now the sadness will turn into anger at this fellow. What kind of question you're asking? There's only one type of sorrow, sadness. There's no other type of sadness. But Krishna here says dukheshu. And Shankara comes to our rescue once again. And he says, aadhyaatmika for Sanskrit class students. Aadhyaatmika. So, we covered this earlier. Sources of sorrow. What are the sources of sorrow? That we can talk about. Source of sorrow can be many. Sorrow may be just one type. Okay. Yeah, as Haraprasad is already pointing out, 3 types of sources of sorrow. So fortunately, this video, I've seen some classes where people teach without just they can't see the audience, and the audience is listening too. They can't see the teacher. And nothing wrong with that. But I ask myself whether I can do it, whether I can teach without looking at people who are listening. It's very difficult. For me, it will be difficult, I think, because some feedback, if I see a confused face, then I can say, okay, maybe I'm not making sense. I need to get that feedback. If somebody is smiling, it's nice to see somebody smiling. Okay, so my joke, at least a few people understood my joke. I can be happy, right? So those things, that feedback I need. But so somebody said 3, so I was happy to note that. So what are the 3 sources of sorrow? So our Shastram divides it like that. My own body and mind is one source of sorrow. So physical pain, anything physical. So many things are there. Piercing backache never goes away. And these days, this, what is it? Carpal tunnel syndrome. Because everybody is doing this. And nobody taught them how to sit. They only gave them a laptop. Nobody taught them how to sit. So immediately back pain and all these, they call it, musculoskeletal disorders. So body is the source of pain. And of course, the mind also is a source of pain. No physical pain, but emotional pain is there. So those are all called aadhyaatmika tapam. Aadhyaatmika. Atma there refers to the self, not the Atma, Purna Atma, but this body and mind. This body, mind, sense complex. Next source of sorrow is what? People around you, things around you, people who can cause disturbances to you, cause pain to you. So that's the second type of sorrow, source of sorrow, I mean. And over which you have some control. You can tell them, hey, wait a minute, I'm studying here. These days it's pandemic and all classes are online. All students are studying online. And so that child is telling the father, Dad, you just close the door, lower the volume. Something can be done. That is second type of source of sorrow. Third type, things over which you have no control. Absolutely no control. And all the way including disasters, natural disasters, floods and earthquakes and whatnot, storms, rain showers, whatnot, cyclones. No control. You have no control over these things. That is called aadidaivika. Second one I did not mention, aadibhautika. Aadhyaatmika, self. Aadibhautika, from your immediate surroundings. Aadidaivika, Deva. Deva, attributed to Ishvara, attributed to our Ishvara. Ishvara in control of the entire, who is in control of the cosmos. Those forces you have no way of stopping. So these are the 3 types of sorrow. And therefore Shankaracharya says, aadhyaatmikadishu, which means what? Aadhyatmika and then adi. Adi means etc., right? Aadhyatmika, etc. He says that, reminding us about the 3 shantis that we say all the time. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Why do we say it 3 times? Why not once again, once more? Why not thrice more? These days, it's so much pandemic and all. I need more Shanti. So Om Shanti 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 Shanti. Yeah, you can say that. That's okay. Nobody can stop you from saying that. But the purpose of this 3 Shantis is to neutralize these 3 sources of sorrow. That is why we say the Shanti 3 times. Okay, good. And so now the question is asked. Okay, it's about 7:30 now here. All right. So we will continue the discussion. So the Keshu Anudvigna Manaha. Anudvigna Manaha means what? The one who is unaffected by all these sources of sorrow. Okay, look at these bold statements. Sukheshu Vigata Sprihaha. And then when when the happiness, when there is always joy, and that person is not affected by that either. Okay, not affected, not addicted to that also. Okay, that person. And then vitaraga bhaya krodha, one who is free from likes and fear and anger. That's what it says here. That person is a sthita prajnaha. That person is a sthitadhi. That is the meaning of this shloka. And we will continue to understand this shloka in the next class. Om sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag bhavet, asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityor ma amritangamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ओम शांति शांति शांति. हरि ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम.